Hello, good morning. Welcome to Gaming Insight Daily for Wednesday, August 13th, 2025. I'm Steve Saylor. This is your sometimes daily gaming show of gaming news, accessibility news, or updates about my life. I have coffee in my Last of Us mug here today. Very good coffee. Today is another impressions video of a game that I played yesterday. If you checked out the live stream where I played Mafia The Old Country yesterday, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you coming on by and checking that out. If you want to be able to check out actually that stream, I will have a link for it in the description down below because it is currently up on this YouTube channel as a live stream. I'm going to be doing this from time to time. I'm going to be actually multi-streaming from Twitch and YouTube, especially when I'm doing gaming specific things. So if I'm playing a game on stream, I'm going to be trying to be able to do a multi-stream on both Twitch and YouTube. And I liked it. Actually, the conversation was great. Y'all had some great questions when you were in there, and it was a fun time all around. And in speaking of which, the reason why I did that as a live stream was because it was thanks to AMD. AMD gifted me a code to be able to play Mafia The Old Country. So thanks so much to them. Basically what they wanted me to let you know is that if you are playing Mafia The Old Country, you can be able to use AMD FSR, which is their frame generation sort of tech that's built into their AMD drivers for AMD cards specifically, similar to like DLSS kind of thing for within the NVIDIA cards. But FSR, if you're using an older card like I have, which is a 6900 XT, you can be able to use FSR 3.1 to be able to help kind of make your game run smoothly and with a little bit extra quality. But if you are playing with newer AMD graphics cards, you'll be able to have access to their brand new FSR 4.0. All right, so thanks so much to AMD once again for providing me a code to the game. But today, even with all that, with it being sort of a sponsored video, they did not pay me to be able to play the game or to review it. So these are my true, honest thoughts of Mafia The Old Country. I wanted to get started with, I was really excited to be able to play this game. I love sort of the Mafia genre. One of the very few games I was ever able to play and run credits on was the Godfather game, based on the original movie back in when it was on the Xbox. I actually have a copy of it on Xbox. I can't play it on my Series X because apparently it's not one that's backwards compatible, which is sad, but it was great because you get to play as your own character as you are integrated into the Godfather or the Corleone family, and eventually become the right-hand person of Michael Corleone by the end of that of the movie, or the story of the movie. You are basically the right-hand man to Michael Corleone, which is really kind of neat. I like that they kind of tied that in there. There's a lot of the original actors that came in to play that. Anyway, I loved it, and I love that kind of genre. And did I play the original Mafia game? I did try, because I do have the definitive edition on Xbox, and I did try to be able to play that. Didn't really grab me as much because I don't think it had really any accessibility even with the definitive edition. And also I think I was distracted at the time to try to be able to play other things, so I just never really got back into playing it. But essentially, I was interested in this version of Mafia The Old Country because if you don't know, this is based in Sicily in the early 1900s, because and that's significant and important because Sicily is where the idea of the mafia or the mob was born, where you have a mafia family that runs legitimate and illegitimate businesses, and every trope that we know about the mafia family or the mob was started in Sicily. So this game kind of is at the birthplace, or is taking place in the birthplace of the mafia. So for me, I was interested in just that story lore alone, and so I was very curious to see if 2K, and I can't remember the name of the main studio that actually made this, but see how well they were going to be able to integrate potentially any accessibility into this game. I will say they tried, but they didn't really do anything that was fully accessible in any way. They included some accessibility, at least there was some considerations there, and there is some things that's kind of built into the design that actually kind of does work in its favor. But beyond that, I will say the TLDR is this game might be something that you might want to either try for yourself or skip if any of the what I'm going to talk about today would be a potential comfort issue for you when playing this game. Let's jump into actually what the accessibility menu is, and this is kind of really it seems like it's bare bones, but it actually does quite a bit for accessibility. You have subtitle size, which basically can set from standard, large to very large, and I believe you can also set it to small too, if I'm not mistaken. Let me actually go play the video, and actually I can be able to take a look, because yeah, extra let's see. So I would skip back a little bit too far. We're going down to the accessibility menu, and okay, standard is the default size, and then you can go to large to extra large. So I went with extra large. I changed the font color to yellow because it actually it stood out a little bit to me, a little bit more. And you can set the subtitle background opacity from off to semi-transparent to opaque, and then you can be able to set HUD element scale from medium to large. I noticed it a little bit in regards to this font, the HUD size, but it didn't really do much. I will say that's pretty much the same as far as the subtitles as well. You'll see in a second like how actually what the size of the HUD and the subtitles actually is, even at its extra large settings. So I've set it to large, and then also you can be able to adjust the color blindness. They have a different filters on it, and you can also be able to set what they call simplified struggle, which basically kind of acts as almost like a QTE or an auto QTE, where basically there is a sort of little mini game where you are like whenever you're sort of like taking, like you're doing someone, like you're basically grabbing someone stealthily, and you're trying to be able to struggle to be able to kind of like to knock them out. There is a little mini game where you basically have to kind of like hit a button at a specific time in order to be able to kind of like combat the enemy from being able to basically kind of get out of that struggle. But the cool thing is that at least for accessibility, you can have it where it just automatically does it for you. It still goes through the mini game. It's just that there's no button prompt for you to be able to do anything. Actually, I'll show you how it kind of how it fully works in a minute, but essentially all it does is it just like auto completes it for you, which is nice. Actually, I did think that was a nice consideration, even though they also have I believe if I can get to the right section of the menus, there is I believe it's in the controls menu. Oh, no, I went a little bit too far back. Okay, so yeah, then unfortunately you can't remap anything. I'm trying to find where that where is that nasty thing that I was looking for? Oh yeah, so you can be able to set things from hold to toggle. I'm trying to be able to find where that is, but basically there is some controls that are consideration that instead of oh yeah, it was sprint. It was for sprint. Sorry, sprint you can be able to set from toggle to hold. That's pretty much the only thing you can be able to select from toggle to hold, at least in the settings menu. There is some other considerations too. You can be able to adjust the difficulty at any given time. There is a aim assist. Now, I tried to be able to get some footage of the aim assist to see if it works, but it kind of, like, unfortunately, the recording just didn't happen, and so I don't have any of that footage. But essentially, you can be able to select whether to be able to have it as a strong aim assist, medium, or off, and then you can also adjust the slider of the strength of that aim assist, and also you can be able to set it for like it will target and also follow an enemy too. Now, it took me a little bit to be able to kind of get the settings and the sliders the way I like it, because it is kind of not necessarily finicky, but it doesn't necessarily work the way we've seen in other games where there's a larger, like if you aim in sort of the general direction of an enemy, it will automatically lock on and then follow that enemy. I will say that if you're looking for like that hitbox is actually much smaller, and you actually kind of have to sort of like aim in almost precisely at the enemy, and then it will lock on, and then essentially it will follow. It doesn't necessarily, It doesn't do it all the time. It doesn't really fully work for like all the time in a sort of a cover combat situation. I did find that there was many bullets or many shots that I was missing quite a bit of times as I was trying to be able to. It felt like I was not necessarily struggling with the aim assist, but it was I was trying to figure out where the aim assist would take over and when it wouldn't. So I was I struggled with quite that a lot. And by doing so, because I was playing on the medium difficulty, I find that I was dying quite a bit. And anytime I was in a shootout, so I actually had to lower that down to easy, from medium to easy, in order to be able to not take as much damage from from bullets as I'm trying to be able to aim to shoot at anybody, and just try to work with the aim assist. But I will say that also, regards to aim assist, the thing that I do like a lot, actually, that really I think the aim assist really kind of takes into effect, is when you are on a horse or when you're driving. Whenever you especially when you're on a horse, because when you're on a horse and you're aiming to, you can be able to shoot while you're on that horse, and while you're aiming at an enemy, it automatically just locks on to an enemy, and it does not, and it also follows them too. So all you have to do is basically, as long as you're controlling the horse, you just have to keep hitting, basically keep hitting the left shoulder button to be able to fire while on the horse, and it will just automatically just shoot directly at them and take them out. I found that was probably the easiest way to be able to do that, and I like that the game included that as sort of a built-in. I don't know whether or not that is contingent on aim assist, or if it's that's just built-in design into the game, but I did like the fact that so I was right when we were looking at the footage from episodes a couple weeks ago, not a couple weeks ago, actually last week or 2 weeks ago, where we did see that there was an automatic lock-on when you were on a horse, to when you're shooting at or when you're aiming at somebody. So we were correct in that assumption. So that was great to be able to be confirmed about that. But I don't know whether that was just, again, I believe it's probably because of default, because I don't think they would have shown off aim assist in that gameplay footage if it wasn't just on by default for that particular mode. I wish it was like that for when you're in regular combat, even with the aim assist on. I wish it would kind of work just like that. I don't know, maybe I'm just not getting the settings correct or not, or it just doesn't do it the same kind of like snap lock on effect as it does when you're riding on a horse. And then kind of the other main gameplay that I want to show you, and the only other settings that are kind of like worth mentioning, again, it's sort of like you can be able to do this classic crouch system that's from classic Mafia games, where it determines what crouch you should do depending on what type of cover you're on. If you're behind a wall and you sort of do a crouch, it'll sort of, and you're in classic Mafia mode, it'll allow you to be able to stand while you're shooting and behind a wall, but it will automatically adjust depending on what sort of cover you have. So if you're basically hiding behind like a crate, as it were, it will do a full crouch, whereas if you're standing behind a wall, it would do a full stand, and then you can be able to shoot around the corner. I chose persistent crouch because it just made sense to me. I did find though that sometimes that there was some options I had to go back in and sort of set up, because it didn't seem to save some of the settings. I don't want to say that's happen all the time, or I don't know, maybe I just didn't set it correctly. So just be fair warned that if you are struggling with a particular setting that you thought was on, maybe go back in the settings and just double check to make sure that it is available. So yeah, that's kind of really the main highlights within the settings themselves. But let's jump into this here is this is how, like, this shows the subtitles here. As you can see, I mean, even with this sort of with this setup that I have here with this overlay, I think you can be able to tell, like, okay, even if I put this at full screen, I think you can still be able to tell the subtitles seem large-ish, but that is the largest that it can get. This I would see is more like either a default or a set as a large, not necessarily as the largest setting. So it was kind of like, unfortunately, it was kind of sad to see that it wasn't as large as I'd hoped. But yeah, it's not like that's something I kind of wish they were able to sort of take into account. And you'll notice that there'll be a font issues throughout the entire game as well. But this is kind of I wanted to showcase this because this was kind of the main sort of type of combat you will be doing in the game. Yes, there are gunfights. There will be some of that. But I got into my first official gunfight about 4 hours in, 3 to 4 hours in. So now, granted, that might have been just because it was sort of the beginning of the game is sort of tutorialized, so you do get to learn all of these as you go. But I did more knife fights than I did at the beginning of the game than I did gunplay. And from what I've understand, I think that there is a lot more gun or knife fights than there are gunfights specifically in this game. So you do have to kind of focus in on how to be able to do these correctly. And it kind of is almost like set up like a fighting game where you're basically having to be able to dodge and parry. You're also having to be able to lunge. Actually, I would say never mind. I take it back. It's not necessarily like a fighting game. It definitely feels like it's a game that you have to do. Not necessarily when you have combat that has a parry and a dodge mechanic kind of thing. But I do say actually I think that there's probably more. There's more to it. So you have your slash. You have your thrust kind of mechanic, and you just have to try to find the right one. There are times where you can be able to counter, basically counter an attack, and basically make them vulnerable. So it's kind of if you enjoyed that kind of style of combat, it's very similar to this is very similar to that. It's just I think I kind of like the presentation of this better because it's a knife fight, so it feels as a little bit more or a little less like sword and shield and more brutal and in your face and you're basically like on the same level as everyone as your opponent. So there is that. But there is another thing that I wanted to actually I'll show you another knife fight that I have here. This is kind of a little bit further into the game as well. This is when you've kind of learned all of the mechanics for fighting. So you have your counters, you have your parries, your dodge, and your full thrust. So, which I like. There are some attacks that you have to basically dodge out of the way because you won't be able to parry them or counter them. This took a little bit of time for me to be able to figure out. And sorry, I got the hiccups. And I will say that I still don't think I've got it correct, like fully down. But I am learning, and I will say that I basically every fight that I survived, I basically was able to complete in my first try. Excuse me, my first try. Oh God, hiccups! I'm so sorry. Even at this point, when you see me basically have like very low health, and like you would think that I would basically die right away, there was enough for me to be able to still be able to kind of more just dodge out of the way, so I didn't get hit. And as long as I timed it correctly, I should be okay. But even though when there's stuff like moments where they're just kind of blocking, I can actually be able to lunge in and basically do a counter and kind of do a vulnerable attack. So I just kept kind of picking away at them, which kind of worked out in my favor. Because also as well, I do believe I couldn't remember which move that it does this, but there is some moves that basically will give you like kind of recover a little bit of your health, which is nice. And I just like the presentation of this a lot better than like a sword and shield situation, because again, it feels more brutal, feels more in your face. It feels like there's no like it just feels like you're on equal footing ground, and you're just trying to be able to figure out what their fighting style is with a knife. And there is even perks for choosing a knife. It's not just you get a knife and that's it. There are different types of knives you can be able to buy that give you bonuses or perks depending on what type of knife you got. I got the one that essentially kind of is a little bit heavier. It's a little bit more durable. So, because you can use your knives in the game to be able to pick locks and to be able, as well as a weapon. So it's a good tool and also as a weapon, which I did kind of like. So I like the presentation of it. Very, very cool. In still keeping with the kind of a very familiar gameplay mechanic of like a sword and shield type game. But then we would get into there's one area where I kind of wanted to show as well that I thought was actually really cool for accessibility, and that is when you go into your instinct meter or when you're instinct mode, and you'll see if you kind of hold the up arrow, you can actually be able to go into a sort of a Last of Us type sort of listening effect, where you can be able to, everything goes black and white and all your enemies are highlighted in white, so you can be able to know where they are, because stealth is also a part of the gameplay mechanic of this game, and I actually really did enjoy it. Now, you do have to kind of hold the button, the up button, to be able to kind of keep it active, but even if you do let go, it does still stay on for at least a couple seconds. So if you want to be able to just kind of like quickly know where enemies are at any given point, you can be able to just kind of just push and hold it for like a little bit, and then you can be able to, it'll last a little bit longer that way. I did wish you could be able to sort of set this as a toggle instead of a hold, or at least be able to extend the timing of this as well. But I did like that this to me actually is really good accessibility. It sort of creates a little bit of a high contrast mode for me, even though it's not designed to sort of be that in that sense. But I did find that this was kind of a nice touch, and I really enjoyed this. And then there was one other thing I wanted to show you, which was when you're taking out an enemy. Here we go. So you can see here that basically you can see this little mini game that's starting. The white bar is you, the red bar is them, and it just will auto-complete it for you. So it doesn't skip it altogether. You still have to do the struggle, and you could still get caught while you're doing this if there's any other enemies around. So I think that's kind of why they still kind of kept it going for you. But I've never tried to be able to like kind of cancel out of it to see if I can be able to get, like, if enemy caught me, I could be able to let go and then just basically kind of run away if I do get caught. I wasn't able to really fully test that out until I thought of it just now. But I would say give it a try if you're looking to try it for yourself. Overall, I would say that the game in and of itself is honestly as inaccessible as it is on the surface, and there is quite a bit to be able to criticize for it. Like even when I go into, let's see if I can find like some. There is like, just to kind of show you the font size of the of some of the things here, because it's. It is kind of because there are like it show like you can see it in any of the notes that you could sort of pick up. And I'm trying to see if I can find, did I save this as footage, because I had to grab it from like a couple hours worth of footage, so I thought I may have grabbed it as well. But I don't think that I did. I will say that the font size is definitely left to be desired. The HUD looks okay, but it's not perfect. I wish there was more higher contrast, but the font size in the menus and in any of the items that you pick up are really, really small. And if you watch the footage from yesterday, actually, yeah, if you look at the video that I put up yesterday, or that's from the stream from yesterday, you will notice that that I had to zoom in using magnifier on my gaming PC in order for me to be able to even read some of the notes or some of the journal entries that you find in this game. So just be fair warned that the text size can be a little bit small. But again, going back to sort of what my overall thoughts, I think that while inaccessible this game is, but there are some interesting design choices that they made that I think is great for accessibility. I did have fun with this. I actually. So this fight main, if you're watching the footage, actually, sorry, no, this is footage from the game from the stream that I made. But I actually went back afterwards last night and played a little bit more because I just wanted to know the lore. I just love this sort of the world building that it's doing. I love, again, the Mafia sort of setting and the lore, because afterwards you basically get to kind of learn how to go and basically do collections for your Dawn after the gameplay that I played. And then also what I thought was actually really cool is like even just the small little details, like you get a rosary and you get a little cross necklace that is, again, part of the Mafia culture. They are very Catholic, because it is a very Roman Catholic sort of a part of the Mafia sort of lore, and the rosary and the cross that you get, you can actually be able to add sort of charms to your rosary, and that actually can give you in-game bonuses, like to your character, whether it's kind of gives you extra money when you're looting somebody, or it can give you a little bit extra damage, what have you. And I like that's cool world building, because it integrates it as part of the story and the lore, but it adds a gameplay mechanic to it. So I thought it's stuff like that I really do dig quite a bit. So again, I'm enjoying this for the story. I'm enjoying this for what I can, what I am able to play. I am definitely going to stick on the easiest difficulty setting, because that's pretty much the only way it's going to work for me. But I would definitely say if any of the lack of accessibility that I mentioned is something that you may not want to play, I would say definitely don't play this. But if there's anything in here that you think you could be able to play, then I would say give it a shot. I would at least recommend it to at least give it a try, as it were. But don't wait. Like, I would say, don't pay for like full price. I would say it's probably best to wait until it's on sale or it goes on, and say something like Xbox Game Pass to check it out. But other than that, I would say, yeah, it's an okay game. Not great, not even great for accessibility, but I'm enjoying it. I would definitely say this is more swimming in the sevens, as it were, when it comes to reviews. So there is that. But if any of that kind of appeals to you, then I would say definitely give it a shot. Other than that, thank you. I think it's kind of going to be my thoughts on it. Let me know what's your thoughts on Mafia The Old Country. Have you played it yet? Have you given it a try? What would you think of this? I don't want to give this a review score because it's not technically a review. I haven't really fully played the game yet, so I may play it and give it a better review score, but these are just my first impressions with playing the game so far. But I'd love to be able to hear your thoughts. Any questions you have, I can definitely check it out while I'm continuing to play. Yeah, that's going to be it for me. Do leave in comments down below. Anyway, take care. That's going to be it. Have a great one, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.